Hey, good morning, everybody. Hey, thanks for attending today. My name's Charles Owen. I'll be your host today, and I'll be joining me will be some folks from Worldpay. We're going to talk about Omniflex, the all-in-one online solution for smarter payments. Today's consumers expect to pay the way they want to, whether it be in-store or on the phone or on the move. With Omniflex, you can easily offer an all-in-one solution to effectively manage an expanded range of payment experiences. Securely accept and manage card present, card not present, real-time or recurring transactions anytime, anywhere. Omniflex help your business reinvent to meet the needs of consumers. So you obviously have Paladin and more likely are using the Worldpay payment solution. We've got Ruth Hamm here, who is the Strategic Director of Integrated Payments. She works in partnership with Danielle Wilmer, who is the partnership manager, and they are your single point of contact for our Paladin customers. And we're going to get them to jump in here, and also she'll be introducing another Worldpay person who's the product manager for Omniflex to help us roll this out and share this with you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Ruth. Ruth, it's your meeting.
Awesome. Well, good morning and thank you guys for joining. My name is Ruth Hamm. I've been with Worldpay for about 4.5 years, and I work in tandem with Danielle Wilmer. Danielle deals with a lot of the day-to-day things. Some of you may have worked with her in the past. If you've had questions about voids or returns, she may have helped you. I deal more with long-term initiatives with the partnership, but we're both really great assets for you guys for internal escalation paths. If you have any sort of if you're down, if you have any sort of emergencies, obviously the 1-800 number is just kind of a good first step, but we're here for you guys for questions and for bigger things that you need help with. So I'm going to kick it over though to Regina Kincaid, who is the product manager for Omniflex. I'm sure you guys have seen emails go out. We are opting everybody into Omniflex to give you guys a little bit of a demonstration and get you guys in there so you can see if it's a good fit for you. But by no means do we want this to be anything that you guys have to keep if you don't want it. You should see some emails going out with an opt-out. If you're not seeing those emails, contact your Paladin representative. They'll contact us. Pardon me. We'll make sure that you guys get opted out. The fee is $14.95. It starts November 1st. But like I said, if you don't want it, we will get you opted out. No problem. If you want to try it for a month and you say, well, I don't think I'm using it as much as I wanted, we can opt you out after that. If you in December think, gosh, I wish I would have signed up for that, we can get you signed up. So it should be very easy to opt in or out. But I'll kick it over to Regina now so she can talk you guys through the product itself.
Perfect. Thank you, Ruth. So once you get your welcome email from Omniflex, you're going to log in with your email address and a password that you set at the time that you get that email. And once you log in, you're going to come to what we call our homepage. The idea of this landing page or homepage is to give you in the middle what we call quick cards. And the idea is instead of going and drilling down on the left navigation, you can simply go to the most common areas of the application just by clicking on the quick cards. So if you want to go directly into reports, you can click on Start Now and it will take you directly to the report page. If you need to process a transaction, you can go and click on the credit card Start Now button and it takes you directly to that page. For demonstration purposes, we're going to run at least one transaction this morning. That's just for a basic credit card transaction. The idea is on this page, you have different transaction types that you can choose from. If you choose authorization, we will give you a brief description of what an authorization versus a force or versus a sales mean. For today's demo, we're just going to do a straight sale, meaning there's no follow-on or no capture that you have to do at a later time in order to get that transaction to settle. A credit card sale, you run the transaction, you get an approval, and then we will automatically settle that transaction for you at the end of the business day. So to get a credit card sale transaction to go through, you are required to put in a total amount, a card number, and an expiration date. Now, this is the bare minimum that's required. Once you have those 3 required fields completed, you'll notice that the submit button will automatically invoke. There is additional information that you're able to pass along on the transaction. So if there is a particular customer code or something else that you may use in your Paladin systems to identify your customers, you can use that as a reference number or put that information in the reference number field. And this will flow all the way through to reporting. Otherwise, you do have the option of creating what we call custom fields. So these fields, the titles of the fields can be anything you choose. You can make them a free text box versus a drop-down menu. You can make them optional or you can make them required. All of that can be done from the settings page and then going under terminal setup. And we'll go into that a little bit deeper further in the demo. For right now, we're just going to put through a basic transaction. So once you have your details entered, you click on submit. Omniflex is going to send the transaction out for authorization. You're going to be presented with a transaction receipt. And on that receipt, you'll see that the transaction was approved. It will give you the timestamp. There is a transaction ID. We'll tell you that it was a regular credit card sale. We'll give you the last 4, all of the details around that transaction. If you do have custom fields, those fields will also be visible on the receipts. From here, you have the ability to print a merchant or a customer copy of that receipt. The only difference between the two is the merchant copy allows for a signature line. So you, as the merchant, if you want to save that off for future use, you have that ability. Or you can actually email the receipt. If you email the receipt, you can email it to 3 people all in one setting. You just put in the person's email address. You can add 3 lines here. And once you click on send, we are basically scraping off all of the data that you see in this transaction receipt, and we're putting it inside of an email. And then here is what the actual email looks like. So you can send this to your customers. They will see your company or DBA name at the top of the screen, as well as your address, and then all of the information, the approval code, the response, the transaction amount, the approval amount, all of those details that you saw here on screen will be within the body of that email. Once you have a transaction that you've processed, let's say, for instance, you need to take an action. Maybe you need to go and perform a void, or someone's done a return and you need to give funds back. All of those follow-on transactions you will actually do from the update transaction page. And the idea here is you're going to search for a previous transaction, anything that was processed within the last 45 days, you can do an action on. Once you locate your transaction, you're simply going to highlight the row, and then all of these action buttons will be invoked based on the current status of the transaction and the transaction type. So since this was a credit card sale, it's still sitting in an approved status. This is the transaction we just ran. I have the option to either regenerate the receipt. Simply clicking that button regenerates the same receipt that you received from the process transaction page. You can rebill. The idea behind rebill is a very simple and easy way to get a brand new authorization request out without inputting the card number again. So if you have customers that are multiple times making purchases from you and you have a recent transaction of theirs within the last 45 days, you could go and find one of those older transactions And instead of having to go to the process transaction page and enter in all of those card details and the full card number, you could simply come to update transaction, find the old record, select the row and click rebill. And then what this does is allow you to put in any dollar amount because it is a brand new authorization request. Once you put in your amount, you simply click confirm. And we're going to use that same card number that previous transaction was on for the new auth request. And once we get a response back, again, you still have the same transaction receipt. You can still print and you can still email the new receipt as well. Other actions that you can take are a return or a reversal. Slight difference in the two. Both of them still give money back to the cardholder. The main difference is with a credit card reversal, we will send an additional flag along with that transaction, asking the card issuing bank to immediately release the hold on that consumer's credit card for the dollar amount for the authorization. So in this instance, the transaction was for $10. If I perform a reversal, that flag is going to go out to the card issuing bank saying, hey, immediately give this $10 back to the cardholder. If you process a credit card return, then that hold falls off, but it could take up to 5 to 7 days. We don't send any type of additional flag asking the bank to immediately make those funds available to the cardholder. So just a slight difference in the two, but both give money back to the card. And then you can also perform a void. And all a void does is simply tells us to remove that transaction from the current open batch so that we prevent it from settlement. And again, as far as the hold on the card, it could take up to that 5 to 7 days. So if you do a void, you're simply saying, hey, Worldpay, hey, Omniflex, don't settle this transaction. We're going to void it. You'll still get your transaction receipt, even on the void. And then once you go into reporting, you'll actually see all of the follow-on transactions. So here you can see our credit card void we performed. This was the void, this was the success response. So you may see two lines. You'll see a line for the action, and then you'll see a line for the response. And then here is our original approved transaction that we performed. This was our rebill that we did for $15. So if you notice the reporting page, very, very similar to update transaction. Main difference on reporting is this is just for visibility into the actual transactions. The current state of the transaction, no actions can be taken from this particular page. You can, however, regenerate a receipt. So if there's a customer who says, you know, I came in, I made a purchase, it's been about 35 days, I need a copy of that receipt, I just don't have it. Since reporting goes back 1 year, you can come to the reporting page and generate a receipt for up to a transaction that was processed up to a year ago. You just simply locate the transaction and click on receipts. When you have a large amount of data or a large number of transactions that you may be looking through, sometimes this filter box is going to come in really, really handy, especially if you know the approval code or if you know the cardholder name. For demo purposes, we'll look at an approval code and say, we just want to see this one approval or this one transaction that is under 813760. You'll simply put in the filter box that approval code number, and it will automatically filter out and show you only the transactions that have an approval code under that number. Same thing if you want to say, I want to see transactions that were ran through Omniflex by a specific person. You have a username field that you can have added to your grid. And if you just start typing in my first name, it's going to automatically filter down all of those transactions. If you see that the filter, or excuse me, if you see that the username field is blank, there's nothing here like there is on some of these, that simply means that transaction was not ran through Omniflex. So it could have come through an integration or point of sale software that you have. Those we won't be able to see the username for. The username is specific to the Omniflex application. Outside of seeing your transactions, the reporting page does allow you to export. So you can export transactions to CSV, to PDF, and to XML. You simply choose the format, click the export button. We will automatically format that report. And then for an Excel or CSV file, we have all of your same details that you saw on the reporting page exported off for you. Same thing if you want to do it in PDF or XML. Then going a little bit further down the left navigation, I want to go through settings a little bit. So when your accounts were boarded to Omniflex, what we normally do through our boarding process is we automatically create what we call an account owner role. That is generally whoever is listed as the signer on your account. So that is the person who should have received a welcome email. And then that person's responsibility as the account owner is to create additional users. And they can also control some of the functionality within the application. Now, there's a lot of other features and functionality that Omniflex supports that may not be necessary or used by your businesses. It just kind of really, this is where we have all of the additional functionality. You can enable and disable other options for no additional fee if it's applicable to your day-to-day business. The few things that I do want to touch on this page about is the custom fields. So like I was kind of explaining on the process transaction page, I have two custom fields here, customer code and policy type. If you go to terminal setup at the very bottom, that's where all the custom fields are. And these are just fields that I've created on my individual test account. But what you'll have access to do is click on the add field button. Here you put in the title of your field. You can say whether it's enabled. You can leave it disabled, meaning it's created, but no one can physically see it. So if you're prepping for something that's going to happen in the next month or two, and you just want to go ahead and get everything set up in Omniflex, you can do that and leave it disabled. You can uncheck or check the box for receipts. So if you want that custom field to be visible on receipts, simply leave the box checked. If you want to make it required, again, you can check that box. You can specify what order you want each of these fields displayed in if you have more than one. And then again, you've got the option for text box versus drop down. So this is just an additional way for you to pass additional data or some kind of special field that will help you with reconciling between a transaction inside Omniflex and maybe a transaction inside of your Paladin systems. The other thing that I want to walk through under settings is users. So Omniflex has 5 basic user roles. We kind of touched on the account owner role. That is whomever is listed as the main contact. You can have more than one account owner if you choose to. If you do decide that you want to designate other people within your location to be an account owner, just reach out to Ruth or call into our support teams. Let us know that person's first name and last name and their email address. Whomever is listed as the account owner today, they cannot create other account owners. That has to be done by someone internally here at Worldpay. However, if you are an account owner, you can create users in the other 4 roles. So I'm going to switch over to a spreadsheet. The other roles that we have, so an account administrator is next in line. The main difference between an account owner and an account admin is an account administrator cannot enable and disable features or functionality from that terminal setup page. They can do everything else that an account owner can. So they can still manage users, they can process any type of transaction. The main distinction is that terminal setup page. Only the account owner can control that page. Next in line is a manager. The main difference once we start getting into managers, cashiers, and report analysts, these three roles cannot manage users. They are simply processing and reporting capabilities. So as a manager, it's an elevated role in the sense that you can actually perform returns and you can perform blind credits. And I'll touch on blind credits once we get through the user management piece. Cashiers, same access as managers. However, the one step down is we separate duties. As a cashier, there's no returns and no blind credit ability. So kind of give that little bit of separation of duty within locations. A manager can do returns, a cashier can just do basic processing. And then last but not least, a report analyst. Report analysts can do just that, generate reports. No type of transaction processing can be available to that particular role. Now, I touched a little bit about blind credits within these roles, and I kind of left this to be last simply because blind credits, or what we call credit card credits, they're going to be a special use case. So if you need to do a return to a cardholder and they don't have a transaction that the return is being done on that was within the last 45 days, maybe they did their initial purchase 4 months ago, that means you cannot go to that update transaction page and locate that transaction because it's older than 45 days. Instead, to give money back to that cardholder, what you have to do is enable credit card credit or blind credits. And the account owner is the only person who can enable it, unless it's someone here at Worldpay. But the account owner can come into the terminal setup page, check the box, and then you'll see a toast message on the bottom right that says credit card credit is enabled. Now, when you go to your process credit card page, you see a brand new option called credit. We make this particular function something that has to be enabled because it's a little bit riskier for fraud. And we kind of leave that up to the account owners to manage. As a company, we don't recommend leaving credit card credit on because what it is doing is you have to have the full card number, but you are basically blindly giving money back or putting money back on a credit card without any previous reference to another transaction. So it's a little bit higher risk, and that is also why we limit the particular roles that can do blind credits. So account owners, account admins, and managers are going to be the only ones that can perform that particular type of transaction or that blind credit transaction. What we at Worldpay would normally tell our merchants is if you have this scenario, perfectly fine, perform your credit. Once it's processed and you no longer need it, go back to the terminal setup page and disable it. That way you're just protecting yourself and making sure that another mistake isn't being made by someone else and mistakenly blindly giving money back when maybe a sale was supposed to be done. It's just going to help just secure that process transaction page a little bit so that mistakes aren't made. Outside of that, some of the other options that are available you may or may not use. We do support card on file. You can save credit cards if you're enrolled. So you can save a card, create a card holder, save the individual cards, and then you can create recurring payments. You could do various frequencies within the recurring payments. So daily, weekly, we have a one-time future. If you have a card saved on file, there's also now the ability to do a pay now. So not necessarily scheduling a future payment, but you could store a credit card. If you have a customer that purchases from you often, you could store their card on file. And then when they come in or they need to make a payment, you never have to go to the process transaction page. Simply locate their card, click on pay now, and you'll enter in your dollar amount. You still have a reference number field that you could use if you need to pass additional data. But I will say, with using this particular pay now terminal, the custom fields are not available. So that is one distinction. If you are adamant about using custom fields, those are only going to be available from that process transaction page. The other thing, if you use recurring payments or cards on file, once you have cards that are going to become expired, or cards that have recurring payment schedules that have physically failed, maybe it's because the card was expired, or for some reason the card is stream bank just declined the transaction, we will give you a failed payment report. You can't take any actions from this particular page, but you can export it again to CSV, PDF, or XML. And the idea is just giving you visibility into here's all of your scheduled or recurring payments that have failed within the last 30 days, so that you know these are outstanding payments. You need to contact each one of those customers and make arrangement to get a payment in another way. And then the last piece for our demonstration purposes today is invoice management. This is basically a text-to-pay feature that Omniflex offers. It will be on all of your accounts. This is automatically enabled for every merchant, and it is within your monthly fee that you're already being signed up for. There's no additional fee to use the text-to-pay. The idea is you're going to create a very, very simple invoice. You can send that invoice either through email or you can send it as a text message. Omniflex will generate the invoice number. We will automatically enter in the email address for the user that is currently logged in. We're going to pre-populate the merchant name with the DBA name that we have on record within our systems. You can change this field or change the name here if you choose. You can enter in your address or your phone number. The delivery method, this is where you'll choose whether it's going through email or text. If you choose text, then of course you have to enter in a mobile phone number. For demonstration purposes, we are going to put in my email address. We'll put in a dollar amount, and then the subject line we pre-populate. It's a combination of your invoice number and your DBA name. And again, this is completely editable. Once you have all of that information in your Create Invoice page, you simply click on Continue. We give you one last chance to edit the information. If everything looks good, you click on Send. And then what we will do is put together an electronic invoice. We will send it out to that card holder, and this is what they get in their email. So it tells them your invoice is ready to be paid online. Simply click the Pay Now button below. It's going to give them the invoice number. Again, the merchant is the DBA name on file, and then it's going to show them the dollar amount for that particular invoice. When your customer clicks the Pay Now button, they get redirected to a virtual terminal page. This is a page hosted by Omniflex. It will again have the DBA name at the top left. It will have the invoice number as well displayed online. From here, your customer, basically all they need to do is enter in their card number and their expiration date. They can input CVV, it's completely optional. We do make them put in a first name and last name. The reason for the first name and last name is that is the primary piece of information besides transaction amount that you're going to use to find that transaction inside the reporting page within Omniflex. If they choose, they can pass in the billing information. Once they have all of their data input, they're going to simply click on Pay, and then they're going to get the same type of transaction receipt. So again, your customer, meaning the cardholder, they can print the receipt. There's no email capability for the consumer or the cardholder, but they can print it just using the basic print function within their browser settings. And then as a merchant, you can come into the Manage Invoices page, see all invoices that were sent. We'll tell you the current status, whether it's being sent, it was paid, they expire after 30 days. So if I haven't received the email or I didn't see it, I forgot about it, after 30 days, that payment link inside the email is automatically going to expire. And if you were to try and pay it after the expiration date, Omniflex will display an error message on screen, letting the consumer know that that particular payment link is expired and they need to contact you as the merchant. Same way as if the invoice was paid and maybe it's, you know, a husband and wife and the husband paid the invoice, the wife didn't realize it, she tries to make payment on that invoice as well. Once we've already received a payment, the second time that someone tries to click on that link, they will get an error message that says this particular invoice has already been paid. So we kind of prevent those duplicate payments and we prevent any payment on expired or canceled invoices. That is basically Omniflex altogether. I'm going to pause there and see if there are any questions that anyone may have.
Regina, this is Charles. Thank you so much. There's so much detailed information here. We really appreciate it. And there is a lot to process. So I just want to let everybody know if this was too much for you to consume in one sitting, you can always go on to the recording at Paladin POS. I'm sorry, portal.paladinpos.com. You can get there from any web browser and just go to the webinars and you'll see this webinar at the top of the recording. So you can watch that in the future. I do have a couple of questions though for you, Regina.
Absolutely.
You know, really good information. I'm curious, is there a phone app for this?
No, there is not. Omniflex is, it's browser based. The one page that will pair down on a mobile device is, of course, the paying of the invoice. If you send it via text, then the consumer can at least see that page very, very well on a mobile device, but the rest of the pages were not designed for mobile consumption. It will work, but it's going to look a little odd.
Yeah, not a problem. a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, the recurring payments. It's also great for failover. If anybody that's using the Paladin system knows, if your credit card terminal goes down, you've got a backup. If your internet goes down and you have mobile failover, you can continue using credit card processing. But this is a great app if you're also out of town and you're selling things from a trade show. You can take credit cards. If you have a tablet that's hooked up to mobile, I would think that would be acceptable, right, Regina?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just awesome for that. Let's talk about some of the integration with Paladin. So you just showed pretty much everything that you did shows up on this app, but I want people to understand, and you alluded to it in one point where you said all these descriptions that are missing, these came from an integration. I just want everybody to realize and to understand that the transactions that you do in Paladin will show up on this screen, and you can do things like void them and cancel them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the beauty of how Omniflex is constructed in the way that it sits on our servers, that to your point, you have an integration, you have a main point of sale that you use to process with, but Omniflex is a lot of times, to your point, used as a backup where you can come in and see all of those transactions, even if it wasn't initiated through the Omniflex application. It's still visible and you can still take action on any of those transactions.
Very nice. Well, I don't actually see any questions from anybody other than the ones I've already asked. So if there are no more questions, Ruth, do you have anything to add before we sign off?
I would say if you guys have any questions, just get those over to your Paladin rep. They can send them over to Worldpay and we can get answers. I am going to be sending out a FAQ, just some common questions and a little more detail of the things that Regina went over. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, any questions that you guys have, just let us know. Again, you should be seeing constant information coming through for the product, and yeah, any other details you might need, feel free to reach out.
And thank you all for attending Paladin University. Again, my name is Charles Owen. I am the Client Experience Officer here at Paladin. If you have any questions for Paladin or for me, feel free to email me at charleso@paladinpos.com. And I look forward to seeing you guys on another day. We are having another one of these webinars we do it every 2 to 3 weeks. So stay tuned. And to sign off, just God bless and be safe. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.